This lesson is on solving quadratic equation word problems by factoring. So, like most of these problems, the difficulty is coming up with your let statements and equations. Your let statements and equations, of course, will be based on the information provided in the question. So let's dissect each question and see what we can figure out. So here we go. The sum, so that means we're going to be adding, of the squares, so that means we're going to be squaring stuff, of three consecutive numbers. So three consecutive numbers, what the heck does that mean? Well, three consecutive numbers is something like 7, 8, 9, 16, 17, 18. Those are consecutive numbers, okay? So we're going to square three consecutive numbers, right? Squaring three consecutive numbers. We're going to add them, because it says sum, and we're going to get 149. And our job is to find the numbers. So we don't know where the numbers start. So let's start by writing our let statement as let n represent the smallest number. Well, the next number is going to be one more than that. So it's going to be n plus 1. That will represent the middle number. And let n plus 2 represent the large number. And that's all there is to it for your let statements. Okay, so you got your let statements. Now what? Well, the now what is, let's make an equation. Well, we're going to square these and we're going to add them up together. Cool. So we have n plus 1, n plus 2, and we are going to square them and add them together. And the sum is 149. Okay, so now it's just a matter of simplifying these. Now, in previous discussions, n squared is n squared, we know this. But what about n plus 1 squared and n plus 2 squared? Well, previously we talked about squaring a binomial. So, if we square that stuff out, we are going to get n squared plus, and we have n plus 1 squared, which is going to be n squared plus 2n plus 1. And for n plus 2 squared, it's going to be n squared plus 4n plus 4. And that equals 149. We are going to collect our like terms. 3n squared plus 6n plus 5 equals 149. 3n squared plus 6n. Then we're going to take 5 and subtract 149, which comes over here and becomes negative. And when we do that, we get minus 144 equals 0. And then we can divide everything by 3. So n squared plus 2n minus 48 equals 0. So that's going to give us n plus 8, n minus 6 equals 0, because we're looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 48 and add to 2. So it's 8 and negative 6. And from there, we are going to get n equals minus 8, n equals 6. And in this case, both of these give us an answer. So what we're going to do is we're going to take both of them separately. Because if we start at n equals minus 8 as our lowest number, then n plus 1 is going to be minus 7, and n plus 2 is going to be minus 6. If we start at n equals 6, n plus 1 is 7, n plus 2 is 8. So in the first case, we have negative 8, negative 7, negative 6. In the second case, we have 6, 7, and 8. So we have two separate lists, and they're both perfectly valid. So we're going to sum this one up by saying, therefore, the three, how do you spell 3? That's how you spell 3. The three consecutive numbers with a sum of squares equal to 149 are negative 8, negative 7, negative 6, or 6, 7, 8. You do need to include both solutions as part of your answer. So that question has two possible answers. Now, moving on to the second question. The hypotenuse of a triangle is 17 meters. One of the other sides is 7 meters greater than the other. Find the perimeter of the triangle. So we're talking about a hypotenuse. A hypotenuse is only in a right triangle. So we know we have a right triangle in this question. We know that this is 17 meters. We know that we have one other side is 7 meters greater than the other. So we could call this x if we wish. And the other side is 7 more than that, so that's x plus 7. And we are tasked with finding the perimeter. So to find the perimeter, well, we need to know all the sides of the triangle first. Okay, so what can we do with the sides of a right triangle? Well, we can use Pythagorean theorem. So it's going to be c squared equals a squared plus b squared. So our c is 17 squared. Our a, it doesn't matter which one's which, and we're going to say it's x squared plus x plus 7 squared. 17 squared is 289. X plus 7 squared is x squared plus 14x plus 49. Simplifying the right side, we get 2x squared plus 14x plus 49. We will bring the 289 over here. It'll become negative, and we'll subtract it from the 49. So 49 minus 289 is going to be minus 240. Then, because everything is divisible by 2, we'll divide it by 2 to make it a more straightforward type question. And now we have something we can factor. Two numbers that multiply to negative 120 and add to 7. So it's going to be x plus 15, x minus 8. Those two numbers multiply to minus 120 and add to negative 7. So from here, we get x equals minus 15. And here we get x equals 8. Now, in this question, because we're talking about the side length of a triangle, that must always be a positive number. So for that reason, that's out. Only the x equals 8 is going to be worthwhile in this question. So we know that one of our sides is x equals 8. We also know another side is x plus 7. So that's 8 plus 7, which is, of course, 15. They're both in meters. Now, the question itself asks us to find the perimeter. So the perimeter is going to be 17 plus the two sides we just found, which is 8 and 15. The perimeter is going to be 40 meters. Hurrah! Now we can write our therefore statement. Therefore, the perimeter of this triangle is 40 meters. Okay, so if you get a question like this, where you have an obvious right triangle, you can use Pythagorean theorem as your equation that you use, solve for x, and then find any additional information that it asks for. Next up, here's a question right here. The dimensions of a rectangular garden are 12 by 8 meters. A strip of uniform width is added to the outside of the garden to make it bigger. The increase in area is 44 meters squared. What's the width of the strip? So, picture's worth 1,000 words. If we draw the original garden, so that's 12 meters and 8 meters, and then we draw the increase, and although my drawing may suggest otherwise, this is a uniform width around the garden that's being added. We don't know what it is, it's our unknown, so we're going to call it x. And now, this new length is 12 plus x plus x, so it's 12 plus 2x. And likewise, the new width is 8 plus 2x. So what do we know? Well, we know that area of a rectangle is length times width. And the original rectangle that was 12 meters by 8 meters, the original area, 12 times 8, is 96 meters squared. Now, in the question, it tells us that there's an increase in area of 44 meters squared. In other words, we don't know exactly what this length is or this width is, but if we multiply them, the answer is going to be the original area increased by 44. So 96 plus 44 is the new area. The new length is 12 plus 2x. The new width is 8 plus 2x. Then we're going to multiply and expand out the right side. So we're going to get 96 plus 24x plus 16x plus 4x squared. Simplifying, we'll get 4x squared plus 40x plus 96. Then we're going to take the 140 on the left side, bring it to the right, and we'll subtract it. So when we do that, we're going to get 4x squared plus 40x minus 44. And each of those terms is divisible by 4. So dividing them by 4, you get x squared plus 10x minus 11. And then, okay, well, what multiplies to minus 11 and adds to 10? Well, it's going to be x plus 11, x minus 1, and working this out, you're either going to get minus 11 or you're going to get 1. Now, the very premise of this question is the length and the width are increased. So if they're increased, that means we cannot have a negative number. So the only number that makes sense is the x equals 1. So, therefore, the width of the strip is 1 meters. And that's it. All right. So, let's do one last example. A rocket is launched. The equation that models the height of the rocket, h in meters over time, t in seconds, is minus 5t squared plus 60t. At what times is the rocket at a height of 100 meters? So this question is nice because it gives us the equation. The equation is h of t equals minus 5t squared plus 60t. We're just asked, when is the rocket at a height of 100 meters? So in other words, this is the height. We're going to replace this with 100. So 100 equals minus 5t squared plus 60t. We'll bring the 100 over to the right, minus 5t squared plus 60t minus 100. And then we're going to divide everything by negative 5. So t squared minus 12t plus 20. And now we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to negative 12. So we're going to get 2 and 10. So we're going to get t equals 2 and t equals 10. And when we think about flight of a rocket, here's the ground. Rocket goes up, comes back down, hits the ground, and we have some kind of a height we want it to reach. When the rocket is going up, it'll fix that first 100 meters at time equals 2 seconds. It'll keep on going up until it reaches its maximum height. Maybe it burns all of its fuel. And it's going to start coming back down towards the ground. And it's going to hit that height again right here at 10 seconds. And it's going to continue going down until it hits the ground. So that's why it makes a lot of sense that we have two answers here. So let's go ahead and write our therefore statement. Therefore, the rocket is at a height of 100 meters at 2 seconds and again at 10 seconds. Okay, so there are some practice questions here. They're in your textbook and they're selected problems that will reinforce the problems that we looked at here today.